At my age, I've seen a lot of life unfold, and I've made countless decisions, some good, some not so good. But there's one choice that still weighs heavily on my heart, a deep regret I carry every single day. The day I decided to loan a large sum of money to my son. It all began a few years ago, when David came to my kitchen table, his eyes bright with an ambitious dream. He had papers spread out, excitedly talking about a new business venture, a chance to really make something of himself. He needed a significant sum, more than I was entirely comfortable with, but he painted such a vivid picture of future success, promising quick returns. My heart ached to help him, to see that spark in his eyes flourish, but a small voice inside me whispered caution. I knew my savings were for my own future, but how could a mother say no to her child's dream? In the end, love won out. I agreed to loan David the money, emphasizing my trust in him, in his drive and potential. There was a surge of pride, a belief that I was investing not just in his business but in his future, strengthening the bond we shared. We shook hands, a warm family agreement, no legal documents, just the unspoken promise between mother and son. I truly believed I was doing the right thing, that this was a beautiful act of support, a bridge to his success. Months after David's hopeful promises, the first day came and went. The date David had marked on his calendar, the one he said he'd start repaying, passed in silence. No call, no text, no word at all. My heart gave a little flutter, a nervous bird stirring in its cage. He's busy, I told myself. Running a business is hard. He'll get to it. I believed in his good intentions. I truly did. The thought of calling him, of asking, felt pushy, untrusting. And I didn't want to be that mother. Not yet. So I waited, and the phone sat silent, a symbol of my quiet apprehension. My hopeful expression, I noticed in the mirror, was already beginning to fade. But that first missed payment wasn't an anomaly. It became a pattern. Over the next several months, the calls would come, but they were always filled with reasons. Business is a bit slow this quarter, Mom, he'd say, or had some unexpected expenses come up, but next month for sure. Sometimes it was a brief visit, and I'd catch him looking away when I might have hinted at things, a subtle shift in his posture. Each excuse was a tiny chip, slowly eroding the foundation of my expectation. I'd nod, I'd offer an internal sigh, and I'd tell myself, he's trying. But slowly, imperceptibly, the unspoken topic of money grew into a thick, uncomfortable fog between us. The calendar on my kitchen wall, once marked with hopeful repayment dates, now just had crossed-out days, reminders of unanswered hopes. The profound realization hit me one afternoon, stark and sudden. I was sitting by my window, watching the leaves fall, when David called. He was excited, talking about a new, rather expensive gadget he'd just bought for his home office. He went on about how much it would improve his workflow, how it was a smart investment. And in that moment, something clicked. I saw it so clearly. The money I had given him, the loan, was no longer a debt in his mind. It was simply gone, absorbed. It had transformed without a single word into a gift he hadn't asked for, but had certainly accepted. The feeling of foolishness washed over me, a bitter taste in my mouth. It wasn't just the money I was losing. It was the expectation, the trust, the clear agreement we hadn't even realized we needed. A single tear traced a path down my cheek, blurring the reflection of a younger, more hopeful Eleanor in the window pane. The unspoken transformation cast a long shadow over our family gatherings. I remember a family dinner at a bustling Italian restaurant, all forced cheerfulness and loud laughter. David was there, Sarah too. We talked about everything and nothing. The weather, grandchildren's school plays, upcoming vacations. But the one thing that hung heavy in the air, the elephant at our table, was the money. No one dared to mention it. I watched David, overly boisterous, laughing a little too loud, avoiding my gaze more often than not. Sarah, bless her heart, would catch my eye from across the table, a flicker of understanding and concern in her expression. Even she, without knowing all the details, felt the chill. We were a family, sitting together, Yet the silence between us was deafening, isolating me in my own thoughts. The pain of the unsaid, a constant companion. Accepting that the loan was now a gift, even unspoken, came with its own heavy cost. It was a psychological burden I carried alone, late at night, in the quiet of my home. I'd look at old family photos, at David's bright, young face, and wrestle with myself. Did I want my money back? Of course. But more than that, I wanted peace. I wanted our relationship to be easy again, uncomplicated. So I chose silence, prioritizing a fragile family harmony over my own financial due. But in doing so, I felt a slow, insidious erosion. A feeling of being taken advantage of my generosity being misinterpreted. It chipped away at my trust, not just in David, but in my own judgment. It was a quiet defeat, playing out in the solitary glow of a bedside lamp. So I have to ask you, with all the wisdom that comes from a decision I now deeply regret, are you truly prepared for a loan to your child to become a gift? Because that's often what happens. The emotional cost, the silent burden of lost expectation and strained connection, can far outweigh the financial one. If you're considering helping your children financially, please go into it with your eyes wide open. Make sure you have clear agreements, or, better yet, accept it as a gift from the very start. Because once you hand over that money, expecting it back, and it doesn't come, the shifting sands of expectation can leave you feeling lost and alone. Hard truth. Number 2, the money wasn't the only thing I lost when I loaned it to David. What slowly slipped away was the ease, the warmth, the very fabric of our relationship. I didn't see it happening at first, but looking back now, I can pinpoint the subtle shift, the growing chasm that began to form between us. It's a different kind of loneliness, the one that comes from having an unspoken, painful issue with someone you love more than life itself. It leaves you feeling isolated, even when they're sitting right across from you. Before the loan, David and I would talk for ages on the phone, about his day, his dreams, even his silly childhood memories. But after the payments started to falter, those calls became shorter, less frequent, and strangely superficial. He'd ask about my health, but never about my finances. He stopped sharing the details of his business, the struggles, or the small wins, as if building a wall between us. It was as if he was afraid of what I might ask, or what I might think. I was his mother, and yet I felt kept at arm's length, listening to polite pleasantries where deep conversations used to be. The silence where once there was trust began to ache. It wasn't just David and me. The ripple effect touched Sarah, my daughter, too. I remember one afternoon sitting with her at our favorite little cafe. I tried to confide my worries about David, about the money, and the quiet strain it was putting on me. Sarah listened, her brow furrowed with concern. "Mom," she said, her voice gentle, "I worry about David's habits, and I worry about you." In that moment, we formed a quiet, unspoken alliance, bound by our shared worry. It wasn't that she didn't love her brother, but she saw the burden I was carrying. The issue, though never directly discussed with David by Sarah, created a separate, subtle tension within the family, a quiet understanding between my daughter and me that excluded him. Holidays, once a time of pure joy, became the hardest. I remember last Christmas dinner. My home was filled with festive decor, the smell of roast turkey, the laughter of grandchildren. But beneath it all, there was a palpable tension. David was there, of course, but he was either noticeably withdrawn, picking at his food, or overly boisterous, laughing a little too loudly. Every conversation carefully sidestepped any mention of financial success, future plans, or even his business. It was a dance, a careful ballet of avoidance. We were all together, yet emotionally distant, the unpaid loan hanging in the air like an invisible, heavy garland. It felt bittersweet, a precious time tainted by an unspoken truth. After that holiday, I decided I couldn't bear the distance any longer. I called David, not to ask about the money, but to talk about brie sauce. "David," I started, "I just miss our talks. I miss you." I tried to be gentle, to open a door for connection, hoping he'd see past the debt and just be my son again. But his voice, usually so warm, had a defensive edge. He mumbled something about being busy, about needing to go, and before I could say another word, he was gone. He didn't hang up angrily, but the swiftness, the complete avoidance, left me feeling more alone, more rejected than if he had yelled. I wasn't just missing my money, I was missing my son. Lying awake at night, I'd often wonder, what if? What if I hadn't lent him the money? Would our relationship still be whole? The silence, I realized, was far more damaging than any argument we could have had. Arguments at least bring things into the open. Silence lets things fester, slowly eroding the foundation of trust and affection. The bond between a parent and child is supposed to be unbreakable, but this financial burden, this unspoken debt, had subtly, insidiously altered it. I knew then that even if the money was never discussed again, the relationship I once cherished was forever changed. It was a heavy, heartbreaking realization. So before you open your wallet for your child, ask yourself this. Are you truly prepared for the potential rift in your family relationships? Are you ready for the distant conversations, the awkward holidays, the unspoken tensions that can creep in and slowly, painfully pull you apart? Because the cost isn't just financial, it's emotional, affecting the very fabric of your family life. Sometimes, the most loving act isn't giving money, but protecting the relationship itself. Think hard about what you truly value more. Now, let's talk about the third hard truth, and perhaps the one that truly keeps me up at night: the cost to your own future. You see, when you're younger, you work hard, you save, you plan for those golden years. You imagine a time of comfort, of not worrying so much. But what I didn't realize, what no one truly tells you, is that while you're busy trying to secure your children's future, you can inadvertently put your own at risk. Just recently, my old water heater decided to give up, a sudden, unexpected expense that I had to cover. It was a simple repair, but as I looked at the bill, a wave of cold anxiety washed over me. I suddenly felt how much thinner my safety net had become. I found myself sitting at my desk, pulling out old statements, my hands trembling slightly as I went through my savings and retirement accounts. Every number, every carefully planned dollar, seemed to scream at me. There it was, that large sum I'd given David, now a gaping hole. I started doing mental arithmetic, calculating how many months of groceries that money would have bought, how many medical copays it could have covered, or how much longer it could have allowed me to stay comfortably in my own home. It wasn't just numbers on a page anymore. It was my peace of mind, my future security, visibly diminished. The stark reality was hard to swallow. And so, the small sacrifices began. At the grocery store, I found myself putting back that special artisanal bread I loved, opting for the cheaper loaf. I canceled a magazine subscription I'd had for years, telling myself I didn't really read it anymore, though I knew that wasn't entirely true. I even found myself looking at travel brochures with a wistful sigh, knowing that the little trip I'd dreamed of, perhaps to see the autumn leaves up north, was now completely out of reach. These aren't monumental losses, no, but they accumulate. Each small cutback makes my world feel a little smaller, a little less comfortable, a little less secure. My generosity had unknowingly started to chip away at my own quality of life. But the deepest fear, the one that truly haunts my quiet evenings, is the thought of losing my independence. My greatest fear isn't just about money. It's needing care later in life and not having the funds to choose my own path. The irony of it all is crushing. I wanted to help David so he wouldn't struggle, so he could build his future. But in doing so, I've created a future where I might need to rely on him, or on Sarah, for my own care. The shame, the anxiety of potentially becoming a burden, of losing the financial freedom I've worked for my entire life, is almost unbearable. It's a quiet dread that sits in the pit of my stomach, a constant reminder of how vulnerable I've become. It's why I started looking for solutions, for ways to put some of that security back, even if it's an uphill battle. I've spent hours online, reading articles, even picked up a book on financial planning for seniors. It's hard work, trying to stretch every penny and make up for what's gone. But there's a small flicker of determination in me now, a renewed commitment to protecting what I have left, to making sure I can stand on my own 2 feet for as long as possible. It's a fight, but it's a fight for my own dignity and peace of mind. Looking back, The weight of regret is heavy. I realize that my choice put my own well-being at stake. It's a painful lesson, but one I must share. While our love for our children is boundless, our financial responsibility must have boundaries. It's not selfish to protect your own future, especially in your golden years. In fact, it's essential. You've earned the right to that security, to that comfort you've saved for. So if you're considering loaning a large sum to your children, ask yourself, are you truly prepared to risk your own financial security? Are you ready to make sacrifices, or worse, face the fear of future dependence because of a decision you made out of love? Please, prioritize your own well-being and independence above all else. Protect your hard-earned savings and retirement funds. They are your lifeline. Looking back, I've realized something even more profound than the money itself, or even the strain on our family. It's the fourth hard truth. The quiet pressure that made me say yes in the first place, and the regret that follows when you don't set boundaries. When David first asked for that money, I felt an immense pressure, almost an obligation to help him. It wasn't just my love for my son. It was a deeper sense of what a good parent does. Society tells us we should always support our children, especially when they're striving for something big. That expectation, combined with my own desire to see him succeed, clouded my judgment. I've come to realize now that this perceived obligation was, in fact, an illusion. I often find myself replaying that day in my kitchen, David's eager face, his big plans, and I imagine a different scenario, a different Eleanor. What if I had said no? Not harshly, never that, but firmly, lovingly. I could have said, David, I love you and I believe in you, but this money is my security. I can't risk it. The thought of disappointing him then, of being seen as unsupportive, felt unbearable. It felt easier to say yes, to embrace that immediate comfort of being the helpful mother, rather than face the discomfort of setting a boundary. That internal struggle between what felt good in the moment and what would have been right for my long-term future, for our long-term future, is a burden I carry. Oh, how I wish I had understood that then. The greatest cost of that unspoken, yes, was the burden of silence I carried for years. It wasn't just the money, or even the distance from David. It was the quiet weight in my own mind, the constant hum of regret and unease. It took a toll on my mental well-being, on my peace of mind. I worried about my finances, about David, about our fractured connection, but I kept it all inside. I didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to cause more tension, but the truth is, carrying that secret burden was far more damaging. There's a profound relief, even if it comes with its own pain, in finally acknowledging the truth, first to myself and now to you. It's like a heavy cloak slowly slipping off my shoulders. So how do we empower ourselves to say no when our hearts ache to say yes? It starts with a clear understanding of your own limits and a firm commitment to them. When a child approaches you for financial help, communicate your boundaries clearly and lovingly. You might say, my savings are reserved for my own future needs. Or, I've decided not to lend money to family, but I can help you research other options. Sometimes the best help isn't money, but guidance, connecting them with financial advisors, helping them create a budget, or exploring community resources. Remember, no is a complete sentence. And protecting your own future, your own peace of mind, is not selfish. It is a profound act of self-love and, ultimately, a loving act for your family. Consider having a predetermined policy for family loans, even if it's just a firm no to yourself. I often look at photos of my grandchildren now, and I think about the legacy we leave. True love isn't always about giving money. It's about teaching responsibility, resilience, and setting healthy boundaries. I wish I had set that example for David and for them. By protecting my own financial future, by saying no when it was necessary, I would have also protected my family from potential future burdens. If I hadn't spent my savings, I wouldn't need to worry about being a financial strain on Sarah or David down the line. Setting boundaries isn't just about preserving your own resources. It's about building a stronger, healthier foundation for your entire family, where everyone understands responsibility and the true value of independence. So, my dear friends, looking back, I don't regret loving my son, but I do regret believing that my love had to be expressed through financial sacrifice that jeopardized my own future. My core message is this: protect your independence, cherish your relationships, and secure your financial future. These are the pillars of a peaceful, dignified retirement. Love for your children is boundless, but your financial resources are not. Please, take the time to think deeply before making such a significant financial decision. Ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me, for my child, and for our family in the long run? Because once that money is gone, and the unspoken strains begin to settle, life will never quite be the same. Thank you for joining me today and for allowing me to share these hard truths. I truly believe that by sharing our experiences, we can empower each other to make more informed choices. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today, or perhaps a similar experience you've had, and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are so important to me, so please don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives me great motivation and encouragement. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in the comments and in the next video.